the first thing you hear in the movie Friday the 13th? And the answer has to be sung. That's right. Michael rowed the boat ashore. Hallelujah. The mics don't work. So what's the second song you hear in Friday the 13th? For a free autograph at my table. Oh. Bang on! You get a free autograph. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah, well done. And you know, First Jason, we're doing 200 shows a year now, so I do quite a bit of singing. Very often I start the show off just, Michael rowed the boat ashore, hallelujah. And then, yeah, hang down your head, Tom Dooley. You got the answer right. Correct. Who is Tom Dooley? You know, it's an interesting little hint, if you will. Because what is the whole story about Friday the 13th is that, you know, I don't want to be a spoiler, but the killer in the first Friday the 13th is mom, and it's a woman, okay? So what's the story of Tom Dooley? Tom Dooley, and we were just there, in fact, First Jason was in Kentucky and North Carolina, and we did October 13th at a crazy haunted attraction in the middle of North Carolina, where I signed a shotgun, but among other things. But they wherever we were, I think it was in North Carolina, they said this is the town. Like literally, we stayed in one motel, Super 8, whatever, you know, and across the street it was the Tom Dooley Museum.
Oh my God!
And I was like, wait a minute, this is. Again, not a coincidence, right? So I'm looking it up. The story goes, Tom Dooley was accused of killing his wife, so you think it's the guy, and they hung him for it. But the whole gist of the song is that he didn't kill her, his mistress killed the wife. So it was the woman is the culprit. Isn't that true every time, guys?
And woman can confirm.
Well, there you go. I love your hair, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But if you ever met Betsy Palmer, oh my gosh, she was just such an amazing person, and just absolutely blessed to have been her friend. And we would hang out together. And so I'm vegan, vegetarian. She was vegetarian all her life. Also, not ironically, a great cook, just like she was.
Oh, wow.
And so she lived in Manhattan. She had a townhouse, and she would have these parties, and she could cook, and she just. And so if everyone was going, you know, all the Jason actors, oh, we're gonna go have steaks, and she's like, come on, Ari, let's go, and we go to eat Italian food and split a bottle of wine, and she would tell me stories about how she lived with James Dean for 2 months.
Oh wow!
Or her love affair with Marlon Brando or something, or kicking him out of her apartment. So I can't remember, but yeah. So Betsy Palmer was just an amazing person to know. And we would have parties at these conventions, okay? If she was here, she would have all of you laughing so hard, you'd be falling out of your... Because I would come out in my metal gear, and she would come out in her like old lady sweater, and we would stand up, and she would just start making dirty jokes, like just, and I would turn bright red, like this guy's hoodie, and she said, "What's the matter, Ari? What's it?" I mean, she would straight up make penis jokes the whole time.
That's a mom's job, though, to embarrass her kids.
Oh, she was the best, and she took me under her wing in many ways. She just never, she said, don't let anybody F with you, and when we have these parties, you know, I would bring her roses, I would bring her flowers and certain treats, and she would often say to me, Ari, pass the joint, it's not a microphone. So, on that note, when I was freaking 12 or 13 years old, I walked into the YMCA in Westport, Connecticut,
Oh, geez.
because Sean Cunningham had his offices in Westport, Connecticut. And I have been told by my friends who had been in a movie that he had just done, which was kind of a take on the Bad News Bears. It was called Here Come the Tigers. And that was about baseball, okay? And so Paramount was kind of interested. So he made this amazing movie, which I got cast for. I landed an 80-line role in Manny's Orphans. See, you haven't heard of it. Manny's Orphans, which was about a ragtag bunch of orphans who win their orphanage back from the mafia in a soccer tournament. And see the problem, this was a really good movie. It had Harry Manfredini soundtrack. It had Victor Miller script. It was Sean Cunningham directing. And their heart was really in it. Like Sean loves romantic comedies. That's his real thing. So there's all this wonderful humor. So I played Roger, the girl-obsessed, kind of chubby friend of the lead guy who's trying to pass off his sister as a boy in the orphanage. So one of those goofy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so see, you get the inside scoop here, people. But this was because I could play a little soccer, and I was kind of comical looking. So I landed this role. And see now, but Paramount said, nobody plays soccer in America. Although the New York Cosmos were in this movie, Werner Roth was in this movie, who was the captain. It's like there was really cool, but they were like, why didn't you make this movie about hockey or basketball or anything? And Sean was like, and they said, we'll give you another chance. Once you made a movie called Last House on the Left.
Ooh, yeah.
With Wes Craven, and it was a success. And he probably went, ooh, because he wanted to, frankly, disassociate himself because, guys and gals, once upon a time, horror was not as mainstream as it is today. It was looked upon as something very taboo. Something that these people... Now, I never felt that way, because I was a little kid who would be, like, reading Edgar Allan Poe and, into all kinds of, arguing about who was the best, was it Lugosi or Christopher Lee? I was one of those kids. And so he said, okay, fine. And he saw the success of Halloween and, quite frankly, thought, why don't I kind of imitate that? And came up just with the words Friday the 13th, like no idea what it would be about. Victor Miller threw in there this idea, summer camp. It's going to be a summer camp.
Yeah.
And all that Sean did was to take a piece of driftwood. I don't know if you've seen this, but a piece of driftwood. And he used one of those, like in arts and crafts where you burn letters into the driftwood like we used to do. And this is a long time ago, people. we used to think that arts and crafts were fun. No, I'm kidding. I know it's still fun. But so they put that in Billboard magazine or Backstage, one of those magazines. And that's how he got the initial investors for Friday the 13th, just like that. And then as it went along, Victor Miller wrote this story. Now, here's an interesting factoid. Has anyone here seen the movie Dementia 13?
Yeah, go for it.
This guy over here. Jeez. I was about to mention, yes, that was Francis Ford Coppola's first knock on the door of the world. And it's a wonderful movie. You gotta watch it. There's so many similarities between Dementia 13, not of course, the number 13.
Right.
But it's a story of a woman who is commemorating the date on which her daughter drowned in the lake
Wow.
on her manor. It's not at a camp now, it's at a
Right.
wealthy woman's manor. And there's some definite similarities. The very first scene it opens with, and it's wonderful because it's black and white and it's great to see on the big screen, because it's in a lake. And there's two people in a boat. And it's just amazing because it's just the black water and this little boat, and the two people are in the boat. And so they start, and the man starts rowing, and he's rowing kind of very aggressively. And the woman says, "Now wait, Herbert, your heart," whatever his name is, your heart. He goes, "Oh yeah, you'd like that if I was to die right now, then you'd get all the money." And she said, "Oh, don't be silly, da da da." This is how the movie starts. Oh, and then of course he gets a heart attack. And she says, "Oh, where are your pills? Where are your pills?" "Oh, I left them on the beach." Ha 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 ha, now and he dies. And she throws his body over there. Whoop. That's how the movie starts, okay? So I think there's so many parallels. So go see Dementia 13. It's Francis Ford Coppola. So, but besides that, and I don't know, maybe Victor would say, "I don't know what you're talking about," but as they developed that idea, they realized they were going to need a little boy who was going. Now, initially, there was no scene where he comes up out of the water. That wasn't in the script. It was just the mom. It was basically a reverse Psycho. Okay? The mom hears the voice of the child as opposed to the child hearing the voice of the mom from beyond the grave.
Yeah.
And so they realized they were going to need a little boy, and the first contestant was Noel Cunningham, Sean Cunningham's son, and his mom just said no. Like, "No, I'm not letting my kid be in this movie." So it was Steve Miner. Now, Steve Miner is an important name in what was to come. He's the producer of the original Friday the 13th. And he was the producer of Manny's Orphans. But also House, if you know that movie, the great horror movie. So, which came afterward. But, so he said, it was kind of like that Life cereal commercial where they're like, "Oh, who's gonna eat this cereal? We'll get Mikey to eat it." I mean, most of you are too young to. There was just this kid who was like, "I'll eat anything," So that's who they called. They said, "Oh, Ari will do it. Just call Ari. He's short and he can swim." So that was it. I was just the first kid they called out of the entire cast of Manny's Orphans.
Oh, wow.
Fortunately, and what was I doing? I was sitting at home going, doot, summertime, having a blast, and the phone rings, and it's Sean Cunningham. "Hey, Ari, we need you to come down for a new film." I was like, "Wow, this is a great summer job, making movies no one ever sees." But I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, yeah, we need you to come down. We've got a role for you. And he was almost to get off the phone. He said, "Oh, wait. Can you swim?" And I'm like, "Yes, Sean, you see me go swimming." And he says, "Okay, get down to the set." And literally, I went down to his office, and they handed me a script, okay? Because there was, her name was Cindy Veazey, and she was sitting at the table. "Ari, how are you? Good to see you." And she hands me a script, all happy and everything. And I pick up this script, and it's got all my lines, and there's a lot of lines, all yellow, right? Yeah, something's wrong here, right? And they're all, and one of the lines, it describes a very intimate scene in a bunk. It says the counselors go in the cabin and proceed, and I'm like, the look on my face must have been, because Sean Cunningham comes in, he goes, he must have just seen the look on my face, right? And he goes, "Wait a second." He goes, Oh, this is Kevin Bacon's script. You gave him Kevin's script. So I was like, gee, I mean, wow, you know. So, yeah. So now I was a bit crestfallen, I suppose. But Sean came over, he said, Ari, you're gonna be the monster. And that's when I was like, wow, you know, because I was 14, so I said, wow, man, I'm gonna be the monster. Okay, cool. And then it was basically, here's Tom Savini and Tasso Stavrakis. And there's another funny story about them. They, you know, it was like the Cheech and Chong of horror, these two guys. They were so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen films of them from that time period. They were like, it was like a comedy team, the two of them. Just absolutely, it was like Monty Python. You should see the movie Night Riders. Not, because Night Riders, which Stephen King is in and Ken Foree is in, it's about a Renaissance company, right? A Renaissance festival company that jousts on motorcycles. Okay, they joust on motorcycles, and that's Tom Savini and Tasso Stavrakis are starring in that movie. But so yeah, they just made it like a super fun experience for me, and so they came to pick me up, and you know, I think they were kind of like, oh, you know, here's a kid, he's like, it's a little kid, you know. Like we're gonna have to like babysit this little kid, you know, and their main focus was chasing women, and so so they had me in the vehicle, and they got kind of like quiet, like, you know, you could tell they were like, oh, you know, and I go, do you guys party? And they turn around, and I had this little tin filled with weed and hash, and I just went doink like this. And they both went, it was like Bill and Ted's Great Adventure. They just went like, whoa, this is gonna be fun. And that's how the whole thing started. Then we went to Tom's, Sean had built Tom his own studio in Weston, Connecticut, where he had like the bust of Bela Lugosi and Vincent Price and, you know, Lon Chaney and his chinchilla, his pet chinchilla, and you know, decapitated heads and severed limbs, and, you know, explosive devices and weapons, all the things a 14-year-old really needs.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely so much fun. But I mean, what were we doing? The first thing they did was they take a cast of your head. So you have to sit absolutely still, and then they pour this alginate over your head. Mm-hmm. And you have to breathe through straws in order to breathe. So it's like, you know, it's like, yeah. And I was 14. So and they were goofing around and making jokes the whole time again. So we took off the mold, and there's my head, and there's this little giggle marks, like I've been laughing the whole time. So Savini's like, oh, this is a problem. We can't have like giggly Jason. So what he did was he said, do you know Jim Morrison and the Doors? I'm like, yeah. He goes, check out this album. People are strange when you're a stranger. And I just listened to that album, and that's how we got me to sit still.
That's not a bad idea, actually. That was pretty good.
Especially Tom. He's a rocker, but rock and roll isn't his thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Because of some of his experiences with loud sounds in the war, as a matter of fact, he does not like to be at concerts where the volume is really loud. That's just something. It may have been like my dad, where they had a mortar explosion, et cetera,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, so yeah, very cool for him to say, hey, this is what will work with Ari.
Yeah.
Like he knew. They were very, very intuitive. And, you know, again, if you want to see what Tom was like around that time period, watch Night Riders. and they joust on motorcycles, for goodness sakes. So, yeah, and then the whole process was first just to do the drowning sequence. Okay, that was it. I went home in the summer of 1979. We had completed everything. They wrapped. That was done. Little Jason is just the boy that drowns. So I went home thinking, wow, this kind of sucks. I'm a kid that drowns in a movie. At least in the other movie, I was this cool kid who carried around Playboy magazines. This one So he calls me up. See, Paramount Pictures, the first time they tested Friday the 13th, there was another dilemma. They were not going to buy Friday the 13th. They were more than on the fence. They just said, no, we're not buying this movie. It's an old lady who gets decapitated and a little boy that drowns. This is you gotta give us some other something. And that's when, so now it's October of 1979. I'm thinking, my job is done. Sean Cunningham calls me and says, oh, we need you to come back. And I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Just kind of lie there on the beach? On a dead kid? He goes, no. You get your revenge. Which was kind of crazy because when I get to the set, they hand me the script and it says, Alice's dream. So is it a dream? I said, you said I get my revenge. And Sean's all like, well, Ari, people can't survive for 11 years underwater. But I said, well, what about like Creature from the Black Lagoon or Swamp Thing or I don't know, I was a big comic book, I was into X-Men and all these weird mutant things. It made perfect sense. In my mind, Mom's head gets chopped off, her blood goes into Crystal Lake, and that somehow is a conduit for her voice when she's saying, so there you go. And there you go. In my opinion, it was not a dream sequence. It was some sort of vengeance ghost, which I guess they leave up to the fans to decide what Jason really is. So there you have it.
Yeah.
We're gonna open it up to questions from you guys now. And we've got mics here, so just step on up and...
Oh, we can hear you from there, probably.
Yeah,
unless
probably.
you want... Oh, yeah, there you go, Mike. That's it.
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, come on up. Yeah.
This sounds good.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th has been where I discovered my love of horror. So when I first saw it, it was actually on a laser disc in a video store.
Wow.
So I'm aging myself. But anyway, I've always loved it, so it's an honor to meet you, Ari.
Thank you.
I think it's where I came from my love of horror. So I have a question for you. As a huge Friday fan, massive Friday fan, just finished another rewatch of all the films. How do you answer the question, if Jason drowned or Jason can't swim, because I always hear this from people. Let's flash forward to Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, or Vancouver. How does Jason get from that cruise liner or that boat all the way to New York City if he can't swim?
Well, Jason has a personal trainer. I think if you look at the development of his relationship to water, it kind of represents how we as people can improve, facing our fears, going beyond limitations, Jason's into manifestation, man. He's out there doing yoga in the woods. See, that's the real thing, that he's really into spiritual, ancient scriptures and meditation, and people just bother him all the time. He's trying to read. I mean, you can't... Have you ever tried to meditate? It's fucking hard, man. It's like your mind just drifts and wanders. You think about mom, think about killing people. You think about killing people. So if people are in the woods, how's he going to get anywhere? So
It's just
I hope
frustration.
that answers your question. No, what do I think? I think that my actual answer is how nice it would have been if there was a continuity in the production teams that did Friday the 13th, because it was handed over each time. Indeed, when Paramount Pictures was on the fence about Friday the 13th, then that ending sequence was created. Okay, what happened? The executives saw that in a test and flipped out so much. Now, the timing was off. They first tested the other version. So now they needed to test it in Hollywood. So what they did was they got the secretarial pool and their own families to come in, their own kids. They tested it. And they only walked in for that last sequence. And the executives saw people crying, throwing popcorn. People got angry. Wow, why did you make us watch this? You know, and they said, "Wow, we've got a hit." And so an unprecedented thing happened. They released Friday the 13th, distribution-wise, 800 theaters across the country on the same day. That had never happened. Usually it was like 40 or 50 theaters per day. So they did 800 theaters across the country on the same day. Boom. So when we look at the phenomenal success of Friday the 13th, it owes a lot to that initial distribution push, which none of the other films actually had. But you know, as far as what the fuck with going to Manhattan? I mean, please, what is that? I mean, you could start before that, though. There's so many glaring questions. The first question, why the hell does Alice get in a boat? Mom is dead. You know, so you're getting in a boat for what reason? Then you're drifting along the boat. By the way, no paddle, because the paddle's been chopped in half. So now she's drifting a boat. But then the policemen are there. The policemen, are you okay? Are you okay? And then I come out of the water. So what, is the policeman blind? I mean, can he not see? There's two policemen and his child comes. So what actually happened? Okay, there. So is it a dream? Is it not a dream? Then how the F does Jason show up in part 2 at Alice's house? Does he get an Uber?
Greyhound.
I mean, yeah, back then there was no Uber. It would be very difficult. Did he hitchhike? He just, Alice's house. Like, how would he know? Did he look her up in the phone book? I mean, it's absurd. And why a screwdriver of all things? Ugh. That whole thing is just, no. And there's other moments which are, but yeah, absolutely preposterous how you get in a boat from Crystal Lake to New York City. Wait, we're in Canada. Is there some sort of, we go through Prince Edward Sound or something and then go like back down to New Jersey? I mean, what the F? I don't know. No. I think there has to be a certain suspension of disbelief, and then seeing things within its symbolic realm, and kind of throwing away the, especially because it was handed from one team to the other. The wild thing that most people don't know is that even though Paramount was so happy with it, Sean Cunningham himself was very doubtful about the success of the initial Friday the 13th. Oh, wow. So he sold it to Steve Miner before it was released.
Ooh.
And then he stood by as Steve made all this money. But Sean got back in for part 4. So, by part 4 with Ted White and when the mask and the whole thing, because it wasn't really till part 3, of course, in 3D with the great Richard Brooker as Jason Voorhees, that we have the hockey mask, and we have, you know, a lot of the things that would go on to represent the series for time immemorial. You know, he couldn't always just be a little baby, you know, in the lake, you know. And, you know, but I do hasten to add that if you were to take the number of people that I've frightened, like if you were to take the brief time on screen and divide it by that number, there must be a world record for the most people scared in the least screen time through the years. Thank you. Questions?
Any other questions? Oh, our sound guy.
How's it going, man?
How's it going, dude?
It's all right. Just providing the old sound for you. But anyway,
I love it.
Got a question.
Yeah.
I did a just brief, like a quick search, and it says that you're a musician and composer. How'd you get into that?
Oh, well, geez, thank you, my brother. I have a metal band called First Jason, not ironically, and I am the evil wizard of guitar, by the way. I'm the only person who really, well, I shouldn't say only, but I'm among the few heavy metal guitar players. Yeah, and you come to the show tonight at the Hose Brigade.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we're playing at the Hose Brigade tonight. My band is playing.
Best reaction.
Blood Opera is playing before us, and it's right nearby this convention center. But so, First Jason, now you're asking, initially I was a jazz piano player. I went to New York University. I got a scholarship. I studied with Joanne Brackeen and Vladimir Shafranov. Then I went into world music, which was very popular long ago. And in the 90s, I toured with an African band from West Africa.
Oh, wow.
So then I worked for Interscope Records and eventually Tough Gong Records, which is Bob Marley's label. I actually performed in West Africa, came back, world music tanked. So what happened with me was, you know, in kind of looking for a new direction, someone sent me an email saying, "Did you sign this 8x10?" And I said, "No," because at that point I had never signed any autographs at all. And he said, "Well, aren't you Ari Lehman, the guy who played Jason Voorhees?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, someone just charged me $50 for this on eBay." And so he went, "What?" So someone had been forging my name.
Oh my God.
And anyway, we got to that guy, and he claimed it was a third party, and he actually returned some money to the fans. But then it dawned on me, wow, what's this about? Tony Timpone from Fangoria magazine contacted me and said, "Hey, why don't you come to this horror convention at the Meadowlands?"
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that's how that began. But so I met, and I had my reggae album with me, my CD with me. And so people were there, and they actually bought it, and they even came back the next day, and they were like, "Yeah, this is really cool. You know, I'm not usually listening to reggae, but, you know, I like this." So then I said, well, why don't I put together a metal band? So I put together First Jason, and I guess flash forward to today, we're doing over 200 shows a year.
Wow, nice.
We've been on tour for a month now. This is the end of our month tour, starting in Chicago. And like, for example, we played at the Embassy Theater in Fort Wayne, which is, you know, a big theater. We helped to run Metal Fest in North Carolina at a haunted attraction in the middle of the fucking woods. I mean, this was so in the middle of the woods that the guy who played the banjo boy in Deliverance,
Oh my God.
that actor was there.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
That's awesome.
Did he bring the banjo?
I signed a shotgun at this event. Yeah.
Okay,
So it
not
was
many people
pretty
can say
amazing.
that.
But yeah, and no, you're next. And then just to finish, recently we've been very blessed because several bands, Incantation for one, helped us. Then Incantation, John McKenty, they had us at we opened for Nuclear Assault. We opened for all these bands over there, which was mind blower if you're a thrash fan. Then Ice Nine Kills reached out to us, and Spencer Charnas had me sing on the acoustic version of Thank God It's Friday, of course, which is on that album, the Silver Scream album. Then we performed at their show. They have their own horror convention, by the way. Ice Nine Kills has their own horror convention. It's called Silver Scream Con, and it's near Salem, Massachusetts. So the first ever one of that, we were blessed to open the show, the big VIP show at the Cabot Theater, which featured Ice Nine Kills and Twisted and First Jason. So then after that, Twisted invited First Jason to appear at their events, Astronomicon, which you should all go to. It's not too far away. That's in Detroit. So then, a fun little kind of like, okay, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we got a bunch of videos up there. Even Spencer Charnas is in one of our videos called The Scapegoat. Then we did a collaboration song called Killing It, okay, with Twisted. But I've got Tim Capello, the sexy sax man from the Lost Boys, is on the track.
Oh, wow.
Courtney Gaines, who played Malachi in Children of the Corn, does a verse, yes. And the entire it's a rap, it's a hip hop track, and the drum and programming was done by Alex Vincent from Child's Play, who's Andy in Child's Play.
Oh my God.
So all of that's on Spotify, Wow. So primarily what I'm doing, thank you for asking that question. Primarily what I'm doing is doing shows. I would say we usually play in small rock venues, like 200 or 300 people, and we're pretty much packing those venues. We did recently perform in UK for 3,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
Corey Taylor was there and Tim Capello again, and yeah, that was an event called For the Love of Horror. So, I think that Frightmare in the Falls has done a very, very smart thing in having First Jason headline the after party tonight and kind of following suit
Awesome.
with all that. So there you go. Yeah, check us out on Spotify, YouTube, and we've got some vinyl at the table. I'll give you a vinyl.
Luke,
Yeah.
oh my God. Aren't you glad you're sitting down?
No, like seriously.
I was scared he was going to fall
Yeah.
over.
No, we're hoping to set up a tour. We talked to some bands about setting up a tour in Canada in May. So we'll see how that all
Awesome.
comes. Yeah.
That'll be great.
So we'll hope to see you there for that too.
Yes, that gentleman
Yes,
has a
you're-
question.
Yes, I'm a big metal fan, so I was just curious.
Word.
With First Jason, is it mainly original material? Or
It's all original material. Thank you for
cool.
asking. And it's some people kind of, our sound is different because I play a guitar and I come out of jazz and funk and reggae and all that. But it's definitely like a punk metal vibe. So
what's
people
the
can.
title of your favorite song that you're part of on that album?
Oh my God, my favorite song? Well, I would say currently that would be a song called Look What You Did, which is the words of Mama Voorhees are the lyrics.
Oh,
So it says, oh my God, oh my Lord, what monster could have done this? Oh yeah, Look What You Did. There's a video on YouTube for Look What You Did that features scenes from a different movie. It's where I play the devil, and it's called Lust, Magic, and the Witch's Sabbath, and that was just produced out in Iowa. And yeah, they have me painted full red with horns and everything. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, Look What You Did is, I think, one of the better examples. Also, people love that song when we play it live.
cool.
Thank you for asking that question.
Actually, who are some of your musical influences?
Wow. Well, thank you. I love Lemmy Kilmister of Motorhead.
Oh, yeah.
I also have always been a big Jimi Hendrix fan.
Nice.
Since the beginning of time. And First Jason has a similar format to that because, I'm playing guitar and playing the solos and singing, and I've got a rhythm section backing me up who both sing too. So, it's got that. Of course, people talk, about the Misfits or bands like that. But again, we have kind of this interestingly funky side to us that, through the years, of course, I love artists like, Bob Marley, because I come out of that reggae scene, and, but if you were to look at like Testament is one of my favorite bands. I got to see them in Germany at Wackenfest. Well, we're in Canada. I love Rush. It's like I'm a keyboardist, so keyboardists tend to kind of consume everything, and I honestly love so much music across the board. My experience in world music has opened me to that whole world, so I also listen to music from India and North Africa and West Africa and Latin music and everything.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
That's one of the great things.
Well, because you can also get so many influences for your music from all of those different types of.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm recently thinking like maybe we should do a ska, Jason goes to Jamaica kind of thing. Something like that, because but it's true. Having the focus of writing songs. Okay, Jason never dies. Jason is watching. Machete is my friend. Voorhees is the name. Okay, it just goes on and on. Sink or swim. Look what you did. Just forever and ever. Jason's bride. But having that lens to focus, I've found is very, very helpful at being an artist. Because sometimes, you're trying to write a song just about, life in general. It becomes very, like, where do I start? But, Jason starts with killing.
And ends with killing, and there's killing in the middle.
That's his to-do list.
Kill.
Kill.
In the afternoon, kill.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's easy. Love mom and kill.
And that's
Got
a
a
pretty simple
moral
life.
imperative.
It's not bad.
No, I have so much fun with it.
Yeah.
And my band members are very, very talented. The performers with me tonight, Colin Fial, this is his first run with us, his bass player, singer, he's amazing.
Oh, cool.
And Bass Amp, who is my drummer for a long time, and so he's also singing too, and it's quite a fun performance, because that's what we're all about. Because, Jason's just trying to have fun after all, especially my Jason that I played. When you swim, you've got to use the buddy system, okay? And he was just like, Alice, come on. Just talk about it. She woke up, kill count 0 over here. Thank you. On that note, are we done?
Yeah.
Or are they kicking us
our
out?
time is up.
They're kicking us out.
Well,
Kill count 0!
thank you so much.
Jason never dies.